Hey guys, welcome and to this week. So we've got a few things we're going to run over this week in this week's emails based from questions from people from the interwebs. So we're going to talk about battery warranties. It was one of the first ones we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about batteries are not always the best solution. And we want to cover some stuff on solar panel angles. So we had a few things come up this week, which I'd really like to talk and address. So where do you want to start, Racquel?
Okay, so let's start with, as someone who's just getting into this, because I've got some questions about some other things too, but as someone who's just getting into the whole off-grid thing, I always just don't always stop and think about the fact that you need batteries or how many batteries you need or what kind of batteries you want. So let's get into the very basics of when batteries are going to work well and when batteries are not going to work well. What kind of things do you need, depending on your situation?
Yeah, so this client I spoke to yesterday is actually in Singapore. He's building a remote property up on the Great Dividing Range. So the grid's there, and so basically he's not there all the time because with his work and travel, and he likes to fish, so he spends a lot of time fishing down on the coast. So, just being remoteness and stuff was really his intention was about, the designer. So you need to talk to Mike. He'll sort out batteries and batteries and batteries and batteries. And after having a conversation with him, I said to him, look, what is it that you really want? And he said, I just want reliable power. He said, I want to do as much from solar as possible and reliable power. And when we sort of dug deep into how long he was going to be spending time at the property, he was actually only going to be there a short period of time a year. So from a financial point of view, batteries wouldn't really ever make sense. So what we sort of decided that probably the best thing is going to be for him is actually just put a generator in. Because my opinion is, and my experience as well, not just my opinion, every time there's been once, maybe twice in 14 years living on batteries, there's been a blackout and the sun's been shining. So most of the time it's raining, it's crappy weather, someone's drunk, driven into a telegraph pole, or should actually call telegraph poles these days, say the power pole.
Yeah.
Knock the power pole over and you've got no power. So, if you've got solar and batteries, the reality is in that situation, you're not far behind everyone else. You might be an hour or two behind, and then you've still got a blackout because you've got no backup source. So sometimes I think just actually putting a backup source in like a generator works better in that situation to, basically for a backup situation than having batteries. So batteries don't always make sense to be the right backup solution. So if you really want real reliable power, I'd always think about maybe, a generator over batteries, if that's what it's really about. Every system we've ever done, where we've done people where they've got like cool room sort of food, that's really important. They lose that. They lose all this live stuff that they've worked really hard to do. So it's so important to have the right size generator to be able to power that backup load. So, because renewables only last as long as the sun's shining and you got power in your batteries.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk before, and this is just something I've heard about. I've seen a few questions about it. Is about battery warranties. That there's a bit of a challenge with battery warranties, or it seems to challenge you.
Yeah. So look, lithium batteries. The reality is back in the day, lead acid batteries, the warranty is like 2 years, and pretty much most of them failed at 3. So the problem I've seen and some issues that I've had with warranties with manufacturers as well, not just battery manufacturers. I've actually had this week personally with with another supplier. So I'll talk about the other supplier first and we'll get into the battery warranty. So normally what the suppliers have normally done, and because off-grid, the customer normally pays for the labor, Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to charge a customer to drive out 2 hours in the middle of nowhere, test something and say, oh, it's a warranty job. You've got to pay me for driving out here. And then, I take the device out because I've had to test it, take it back, get another product, take it back out, install it. So the customer's paying for 2-3 times trips. We want to avoid that as much as possible because those trips can cost more than just buying a new unit, which in this case it bloody did. So what I've always done is I have a product here on the shelf in stock ready to go. So when the customers you know, and I don't always have that, but customers this week, the solar regulator failed, drove out, we swapped it over, got it back, lodged the warranty claim of how we normally lodge warranty claims. And the supplier said, hang on, buddy, you've had that product for 4 years. You've got pretty good use out of it. We're only going to give you a credit.
Okay.
So instead of replacing $1,000 device, they offered me $110. So as a business owner right now, I'm down $900. I've sorted my customer out to save the customer money. I'm down $900 and now have an argument to have with the supplier to say, hey, you know, no, give me another device rather than the payment. If you don't want to pay me money, give me another device. And I suppose that'll lead into batteries, because this has been something very apparent in the battery industry. And it's really important to check your battery warranties. And that's why I really love the Volta products and another product called SOC, S-O-K. So what happens in the battery world, what I've noticed over the last, you know, when you get to about a 7-year mark, most battery manufacturers say, hey, look, you've had the battery for 7 years. That's all good. We know it's a 10-year warranty, but you've had 7 years of use out of that battery. We don't think you're entitled to, you know, a whole brand new battery. We're going to give you some cash back or a discount off another battery to buy up front. So a lot of them are doing it, basically. And when you get to that sort of stage, and we've been in business so long, when we're having those issues and dramas, and it puts us in a situation where dealing with the customer, and the customer's like, well, you told me Mike was a 10-year warranty. I was like, I know, but that's what they said. And so yeah, it all falls back to where that pays. And that's why I love the Volta products, because with Volta, they say for 10 years, we'll send you out a new cell to replace the cell, because that's normally all that's failed in a battery. It's just one cell. And so with the Volta warranties, or these batteries that you can pull apart, you know, it is literally, you know, a $200 or $300 problem fix, basically, from a warranty point of view. So where some other manufacturers, you know, it's a $3,000 or $4,000, you know, that doesn't cost them. But, you know, yeah. I feel that the battery manufacturers are getting out of their warranties by just doing that deal. And then you've got to buy another battery from anyway, because you get 6 of their other batteries in your system. So yeah, it's a bit complicated. And then it goes down the path of like, well, they say, take me to court, you argue in court, and then you spend more time and money arguing in court to get the warranty. So something to be very clear on with warranties with battery manufacturers, and where it sits.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting, because you think a 10-year warranty is a 10-year warranty, but it is. I know that I've seen it happening with things like, you know, your washing machine, for example, that if you're very, very close to the end of your warranty, they're so reluctant to pay it out, because I get it. I mean, you've had but they set a warranty for a year. So my thing is, if you set a 10-year warranty, it's 10 years and it's a replacement warranty. Therefore, it's a replacement. It's not otherwise make it very clear. It's a pro rata warranty. It's a very different thing. So, okay. At the top, go.
I was saying, the thing to read with battery manufacturers, a lot of them are going to now, which I think is probably fair for everyone involved. They're going to energy in, energy out. So,
okay.
You know, the reality is, if you ever see a secondhand set of batteries on Facebook that I'm selling, I probably wouldn't recommend buying them. They've been trashed. That's my job. I get given batteries as research and development. I give them a really hard time. That's what I get paid to do, you know? So it is fair for those batteries to do the warranty of energy and energy out, because some people really care and look after their batteries, and they have that issue at the 8-9 year mark, but they did everything to look after them. And I've had customers that, you know, they don't give 2 shits. They run on flat every single night, you know, and they're just really hammering their batteries. They put small batteries in, not enough battery storage to start off with. And, you know, then they're like, well, I want a new battery under warranty. So, and they're the people that give me a hard time. So I think energy and energy, that's a good way for everyone. It's fair because, you know, the manufacturers need to make money, stay in business, and also the customer needs to make sure their warranties will be honoured. So,
that's good. Okay, at the top of this, you said something about solar panel angles. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. So this job we're looking at yesterday on and it's one of those things that a lot of people don't like the looks of solar panels sitting up on tilt frames. And I know Jeff Lawton says, you know, you want them up and you want to be proud and show people that you got solar. And I get it. So I do get that, you know, the look of it and on the angles. And, you know, this architect who's basically designed this house has designed the house with the roof angle facing backwards. So all the water falls to the back, all the gutters are at the back, so all the stuff's at the back of the house. It's only a 10-degree angle. So what we did to compensate on it, and a lot of people were like, oh, you can't put panels on a south roof and do that sort of stuff. And it's like, this is an architecturally designed house, really nice home. We went and did their energy calculations, and we actually just worked out, we just need to double the size of the solar system. And we can put it flat to roof on the back of the roof facing south. And as long as we doubled the size of the solar system, they'd get enough to produce what they need in the middle of winter. So you don't need to always put them up on the tilt frames to get that angle. But yeah, it does work out more cost effective to put them on tilt frames and have them face the right directions than put them the other way. So that was something there to be wary of. And also consider, and if you don't like the look of solar panels, just make the roof a little bit bigger, and you want to put double the amount of solar on and have it facing south. And the lower that angle is, the better. 10 degrees is probably the lowest I would go, because there's another thing with cleaning solar panels and also hail. We've had very few customers over the year ever have hail damage on their solar panels because their panels are up on an angle where the flatter they lay, the harder the hail hits when it hits, it causes more damage. So something to think about. So,
I know the last time we had a hailstorm around here, because we are suburban, but almost every house has solar panels because that's how it goes. That there was a lot of damage to solar panels because they're all flat on the roof here. They're never. It's just a thing. I think it's one of those subdivision-y type things. They make it look a certain way.
Well, when you're on the grid, it really doesn't add up because it's all about a financial decision. Is most people putting solar on the grids available, and especially tile roofs. You just don't do tilts on tile roofs. We just had a comment from Gurindo. So about architects designing buildings, designing with roofs that are suited for installing PV, and it's so true. As if buildings were more designed around having that right roof angle for the solar, for the production of that client, but it's very rarely a conversation had with people. I think it's more happen that people want to go off grid, that conversation happens. But the people that don't want to go off grid, around the grid connected architecture design properties, the roof solar panel angle is it's hardly ever thought about, Yeah. The other one I've seen a lot on very expensive dwellings, we'll call them. And it works great from all aspects, is actually have the roof dead flat, but have a meter of edging around the edge of wall. Like a lot of places have brick walls up. Safety, hides the solar panels. It looks good. You can get up on the roof and have your bit of a on your roof deck sort of area. But there is lots of ways that you can do it and hide it, still make it look really good. So
Okay, so this is kind of a good segue into my question for today, which comes from my own what's happening in my life, but also from some groups I'm in. So I'm in a few groups where we're people like me who want to be going off grid, who want to be doing things, in the next 12 to 18 months. And a lot of them, and I don't know if this is because it's Canadian and so it's cold and they live in valleys in mountains and things like this. So that could be a reason, okay? But I've seen a lot of people where their solar panels are not even on their roofs.
Yep.
They're literally just these, for want of a better way of describing it, it's like these big whiteboards of solar panels, and they move them. And I've seen them. I've seen them on YouTube. I've seen them in these groups. Is for people that are really off grid, and I mean these people normally are totally not connected to a grid, is that a thing based on where you are, or is it just another way of doing it? Is it just, because it's, I don't know why. I'm wondering beyond why you do it. My head says so you can move it around to catch the sun if you live in Alaska or northern Alberta or something. Like that makes sense. But I'm not sure if that's the only reason.
Yeah, so look, there's a ton of benefits of having ground mounts. Easy to clean, easy to maintain. Yeah. One of the biggest things in Canada and places is to get the snow off them.
Okay.
When on the ground, you can stand up and get the snow off. That makes it a lot easier to get the snow off than on your roof because, icy roof, dangerous, that sort of stuff. So putting them on the ground. But one of the other big things that is eliminated in Australia besides that, the safety and the ease of maintaining them, is in Australia, panels are so much cheaper. So with the moving of the angle, in places like Canada, you want to be able to lay them flat in summer or flatter so you get the good summer production. But in winter, you want to stand them right up and get the maximum performance out of winter. So you do want to be able to adjust them because panels are so expensive. It's cheaper in Canada to build a ground mount, put them up. They don't have the rebates and grants and stuff that we do because in Australia, the more panels you put up, the more rebates and grants you get. So it gets to us, there's a sweet spot of panels where an extra 6 or 8 panels actually doesn't cost the customer anything, because the rebates cover the cost of the panels, the racking, and the installation. Because it's like there's a sweet spot where 6 extra panels are basically free. Where the ground mount in Australia costs so much money to install compared to the ones in Canada.
So even if you were living, you know, I'm thinking places in Tasmania that I've been to, like Rosebery, or they're up in the mountains. They're like Warranties. They're right up in the mountains at the back of Cradle Mountain there. So they pretty much don't get a lot of sunshine because of, you know, the sun rising and then the sun setting. It goes behind the closed mountains. So because my head was like, oh, if you went somewhere like that, then having the ability to move your things around might actually be useful. But then it's probably too expensive, and you're just better off to put more solar panels up in different directions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it. We always, when I first got involved in this industry, the guy that taught me was all about fixed tracking, is what we called it. Trackers these days are a lot more reliable than when we were involved. And there's some amazing, a Western Australian company that's built this tracker which runs on oil and gas. Well, it's gas, probably more accurate, but in the morning, it's got a gas canister on the side. It gets hot. That oil turns into gas, which goes up to the top, which then pulls and tips the solar panel over. And it's just using all car suspension. So they use shockies and rubbers. So it's very robust, low maintenance. It's got a bearing in there that just pivots a little bit, so it'll last forever. Some of these, we've put panels, and we've had to replace the panels on these solar trackers, and they've been there for 30, 40 years, and these things are still amazing, you know? We just had to sort of put a bit more rail to be able to extend. The panels are so much bigger these days and fit all that, but they still work great. But then overnight, when they go to sleep, the gas then, because it got hot, turns back into oil, drips back down the bottom, and then pulls it back over, ready to tilt in the morning. So solar trackers can work, and the fixed tracking though that we have always done, and even more grid connected houses these days, we're trying to do that, is have panels face northeast, northwest. If it's a big flat roof, that's what we're trying to do, is like northeast, northwest. If it's a skewing roof, and have them on tilt frames, because you get that early morning production, and it spreads out. Rather than get this big curve of in the middle of the day, all this production, you get more in the morning and more in the afternoons, when you're going to be using your energy more anyway, directly from the panels. So that really adds up. But yeah, like ideally, like the way I think about life, if you can only have panels 2 directions, I would have 2/3 of my panels facing north and 1/3 of my panels facing directly west, because it's in summer when we run air cons and bigger loads like that, and also of an afternoons when we cook. And I always feel like we use energy for longer of an afternoon than mornings. Mornings are coffee, quick in and out, get out of here. So, and you've got panels late afternoon in Australia. The energy we get from the sun's actually more powerful in the afternoon as well. So you get more bang for your buck anyway. So if your panels facing west, you're using sunshine more directly, it's going to make your batteries last longer, because it's later in the night before you start using your batteries to get you through to the morning. You know, that's how I would always think about it. And for fixed tracking, 2/3 your panels north, 2/3 west. And if you've got the money, I would literally do the same amount west, east, north, west, and just fill the roof, south, everything, you know, just cover the bloody thing.
Just cover the roof.
Never have enough solar. Like,
that's true.
You never have enough solar. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to throw just one question out at you. So, again, this is from my group that I'm in, where everyone's thinking of doing, like, trying to plan to go out and buy property, okay, for off-grid living. And this question gets asked so many times in this group, and people will send you off to look at something, but there's a lot of conjecture, a lot of, you know, oh, Dad, this is more important than this. And the question is always, what are the top 3 things, if you are looking to go off grid, like go out, and I mean off grid, okay? What are the top 3 things that you should be thinking about? And number one seems to always come up about the right location, like find the right location that suits this kind of life. But then the next ones all get a bit into each other, you know, a bit confusing and a bit like, oh, what's more important? And one of the ones that comes up a lot, besides the right location, is build a small home. Okay, like, so it's about the size of the home versus the location. So if I asked you, just off the top of your head, what are the 3 or even just the 2 most important things when wanting to go totally off grid and looking for somewhere to go, and what are the very most important things that we should be considering going off grid? And you can leave the location out if you want to, because I think everybody almost agrees the location's so important. So
yeah, well, yeah, 100%. So to me, the biggest things would be access to the property. I think people really underestimate how much it costs in maintenance if the property is really bad access, or even the design. Like you see, there was a property with the Dominican Republic job we're working on at the moment. They showed me this access road, and it was just washed out. And I was just like, that would be a nightmare to maintain.
Yep.
Because the way the driveway runs, it's straight out, it's off the watershed. The water's is going to keep punishing that, and you can't beat water. Water's. I think the kids told me the other day, was like, "Dad, water's the strongest thing in the world."
Yep.
I was like, over time, water will always win against anything. Like you see what it does to rocks, and so I'd be really looking at that, because to me going up in what I want to do, I don't want to go buy a property and end up the property owning me. We're going to maintain it and look after it. So the maintenance, to me, how easy it is to maintain with the access, because that's the biggest thing normally with your cars and getting vehicles in and out. And same around the boundary property, how easy is the boundary to access with your fencing, maintain that. Because even something people don't think about with fencing is, if it's right in the middle of trees, every time a bushfire goes through, there's where your fencing gone.
Yep.
And we had bushfires 2 or 3 years ago here, and people, to them, spending $150,000, $200,000 was more of a priority to get the fencing up to keep their animals in than spend $20,000 or $30,000 on a solar system. Like that's a conversation we also have with people. It's like, well, they don't have the money to do everything, and the fencing was more of a priority to keep their animals in, because that's their income and their livelihood. So there's still people who live out the back of nowhere that don't have power. So access, that's a big thing for me. Access is getting around the fences and into that sort of stuff there. And then the other thing I would consider and think about is the access to renewables, whether it be the sunshine, the wind, the water. Water's a big thing, but for me, that I would be really care about is I moved to the north. It's funny, I moved to the Northern Rivers because on average they had a 2,000 mil annual year rainfall, and I worked out and I looked at all the rain, how often it rained in the Northern Rivers. I thought I can be self-sufficient for water with a small tank in an urban environment, and that was one of my big reasons to move to Northern Rivers. But then, we get way too much. It floods too much.
Yeah, you did. That's interesting because, in these groups, and I know this because I've worked with you on the Dominican Republic project, but they don't ever talk about access. And they're talking about, depending on which, whether it's my Australian group or my Canadian group that I'm in, but they were all talking about going off and living in the forests, or going, off in the bush here in Australia, and they're never talking about access. And it's a funny thing, because I often think, I know this from personal experience. I had an auntie who lived out the back of Tara in Queensland on a bush block, and I remember when they had to do their driveway, and that was flat land and it was a driveway, but it cost an absolute bomb to get the driveway in. And like you said, it didn't rain often up there, but when it rained, that was, if you didn't do the driveway right, you had problems. And even my auntie, I've got another auntie who lives out a place called Dunedoo out the west of New South Wales.
I know what Dunedoo is.
Yeah, okay. And so she's outside of Dunedoo. But she had the same thing. I remember her driveway being a big issue about actually having access to get onto the property to start their build. Even now, she's been there for 30 odd years, and the driveway is still, the access to the property is still a major issue for her. But I think that's interesting, because you think of that straight away, and but I tell you, it's not discussed. What is discussed is the right location, sun, this, blah, blah, blah. And then it's all about the house and the solar and things like that. And when water's discussed, funnily enough, it's not, do you have access to water? Okay, so, either rains, wells, whatever, do you have access? It's about more water wastage, as in, your grey water and your this water and that kind of stuff. So, that's interesting. I'm going to go back to the group with that. Okay, yep. Let's. I'll send you this video and say, watch, because Mike tells me.
Well, it's so the way I always think about it, like, you know, a true permaculture designer is always like water access structures are the first three things that, you know, you think about where everything's going to go. And it's just like, because I think of the customers that have called me up over the years and go, hey, Mike, we can't go ahead with the solar system right now because the driveway was 150 grand that we didn't expect for, or because who thinks you're going to spend 150 grand on a driveway? And these are people that just bought 100-acre blocks. And of course, everyone wants the nice view all the way up the top of the hill. And so when you really think about where you get your water from, your access, and even water, you know, when it all gels together, you put your house halfway down the hill because then, well, I got a load of solar. I can pump the water back up top there so I can get the gravity feed. There's a bit of energy load saved. But also as well with the house halfway up the hill, up top's really cold. You know, and you might say, there's loads of wind up top. You put a wind turbine up there, but it's going to be bloody noisy. You know, you hear the wind and that sort of stuff going. So that thinking about how you're going to access your water, your water and then your access, because same thing, if you need to put a driveway all up top of the hill, if you go straight up, it's going to wash out all the time. And then to go across the mountain all the way up the top, it's going to cost an absolute fortune. So, mate, water access structure.
Cool. Okay, I'll go back to that one. Water access structure.
And another thing as well, just on water, so many properties we've found springs up high up in the hill. So you can get gravity feed just from springs up in hills and stuff like that. So, so cool. Mate, that's how I think about it. Because I'm more about, you always think about where do you want to put your money? And I would rather put more money in solar, batteries, infrastructure, than driveways, leveling out land. People don't realize, I think, I actually talked to a customer, Grant, who's been on the podcast before. We talked about what he's just done to his property. He got a really good deal. So, and he was prepared to do this, but it was covered in firewood. So they literally had it all cleaned up and they've literally leveled the whole thing. And basically it's all really clean, all really level now, growing grass back around in there in the trees. But he prepared for it. He was like, well, we're getting the land for a really good deal. We're willing to spend that money to do that. And I said to Grant, mate, that is one thing, that amount of money you've spent doing that, people just don't appreciate when they're buying land. They just walk in, see the trees, see the nice views, and don't realize all this timber's gone from an old growth forest. It's all level, it's nice fresh grass. You know, the kangaroos are over there eating the grass, like, rather than this dry, dusty, you know, log filled, snake infested, you know, paddock that it was, you know. So mate, it's people don't really appreciate, understand how much goes into the landscape and that. So
cool.
Awesome.
Oh, thanks.
All right, cool.
Go back to the group and tell them.
Sounds good. All right, guys, any other questions? Post in the comments below on this video and we'll be able to answer them next week. Or shoot us an email. You can go over and register on our new, we're going to start sending all our emails out from ogss.com.au. So you're going to go over there and put your email address in there and register there, and we'll start sending all our emails out from there for any email communication, or you can send us an email through that platform and tell us any questions you want to answer in the live stream.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.